compression bass. So now that we have some compression on our drums, we're going to move on to our bass here. Now, if you remember, our bass was originally MIDI, and so it's not going to need as much compression as a real bass would, but it will need some, and we can do some controlling of how the bass functions with some compression. Okay, so there's our bass going a little bit there. If we go ahead and we're going to just add that same plugin again. Now this time what we're going to do is we're going to kind of make the bass and the kick drum kind of function together a little bit better, because what happens is there's a groove that happens between the kick drum and the bass. And what it is that transient that we were talking about, that punch of the kick drum, actually occurs before the attack of the bass guitar. And so what happens is the bass kind of sits in the pocket of the kick drum, so that you're not actually hearing the attack of the bass guitar and the attack of the kick drum at the exact same time. The bass guitar is a little bit after the kick drum. So what happens is sometimes you get bass players who don't really sit in the pocket, lay back and sit in that pocket after the kick drum. And so what you can do is, if you actually compress them with kind of a quick attack, you can actually turn down some of their attack and kind of push them back and make them sit in the pocket a little bit better. And so there's some aspects of that in this bass part. Although it does groove pretty well, we can sort of show that as well. So okay, we'll listen to it with the mix here. So you'll notice that listening to it in the mix there, we basically turned it into limiting as I raised the ratio and made it a little bit more brutal on it. And a lot of times basses really require more limiting than compression, but obviously since we have a compressor limiter here and the only difference is the ratio, we can go quickly between a compressor and a limiter. So let's listen a little bit more. Let's go back to the beginning of the song and listen to how the kick and the bass are kind of fitting together dynamically as the song begins. If we mute the choir there, we can listen to just the rhythm section. So now we've basically put the bass under a little bit more control. We've turned it down quite a bit, but we're not using the makeup gain here. We're using the fader as our makeup gain. And the reason why I changed that was because by using the makeup gain and then using the fader, it was pushing our fader down here. And you'll notice that as we get lower on our fader here, the increments are closer together, so a bigger jump in a smaller amount of time. And so a small movement of the fader makes a bigger difference. So if we get our fader closer to unity gain, then we have more play and more control with smaller movements. And so that's why I did that. So I got rid of the makeup gain here and used it on my fader. But that's kind of compression on the bass and getting that to fit better with the mix and kind of make the bass a little bit more controlled and consistent throughout the song.